Welcome to my podcast, Scientist Free from Religion. This podcast has as proposal, as main idea to talk about a scientific topic, but also talk about religion. Different from the common assumption in which science and religion should be separated, here on this podcast we recognize formally that science and religion are not disconnected. Sadly, religion can be a very big threat to science. So on this podcast, the proposal is to talk about it freely, so without fear, without the illusion that they are separate topics. So we are going to cover a possible topic. Most of them will be focused on the connection between religion and science, especially to defend science. That's our goal. Our goal here is to defend science from religion and to help to make science, to spread scientific thinking, especially to defend it against religion. One minute, just test the audio. So, 1 minute. Let me just see if the audio is coming just fine. I think so. Just test the audio. Seems that works fine. I think just fine. Let me separate this one here. Yes. I think it works just fine. The microphone is working fine. I think they're fine. So, hey everyone. Let me close this one here. So this is the very first live that you do here on this. If you follow my work, I do a lot of the lives in Portuguese, which is my mother language. So far, my podcast, Scientists Free from Religion, has been focused on AI. If you are asking yourself, I have been using a lot artificial intelligence to record the episode. So basically, how I do, I use a kind of publication that I have on my podcast, on my blog called Scientists from Religion. Then I ask AI to use this information from my own blog to actually record a podcast. So I listen to every single podcast that is created by AI, and they are very precise in what I want to say. Sometimes I also record some episodes in which I actually talk to the artificial intelligence and to have a conversation. But today we have something very special. I have our first let me see if I have some let's see. Or the other computer will be a little bit slow. But today you have a guest, Nushuz. She's a writer. She has several books under her name. But recently she started to publish a couple of articles. She submitted four stories to my blog called Scientists from Religion. If you are asking yourself, Scientists free from Religion is a blog that anyone can make a submission. Anyone can submit an article. So if you have a story about the intersection between science and religion, you are welcome to submit. I just have one rule. In general, I'm not going to bother you if you write a story to my blog. I don't accept if you are trying to preach. I mean, you need to at least talk, at least say something that's interesting. If you want to preach your religion, I have some experience. Some people trying to submit some very religion content. I think that's not the best place. But Nushuz, she has been writing a lot so far. She had 4 stories, and I was very happy to invite her because I'm from a Christian country. Basically, Brazil is a secular country in its constitution. From the constitution point of view, we are a secular country. But you know that reality is not so simple. You have about 80% of our population are Christian. All the politicians, they use the language of God to be elected. In Brazil, we have a discussion that you should not have a public image of Christ in public place, but it didn't work. I mean, maybe it's never going to work for now. But Nushuz, she's from Islam. I had several friends from Islam as I was doing my masters in my Ph.D. I had friends from Iran, friends from Turkey, and so on. But I never had the experience to talk to those people because at the past I was not interested in religion. So I never look at from an atheist perspective. Recently, I have decided to declare myself an atheist, and I have decided to talk a little bit about religion. So it has been like 3 years since I published my first book. But before you start, I just would like to recommend. Let me just open here. Just give me a minute. In a couple of minutes, we are going to have our guest. But before, I would like to show you her book. I guess, let me see. This is her book. She will talk a little bit about the book. If you come here on my profile, you see that I have several books, but in the end here I have a book as a suggestion. So as I said, a person writing a book under pen name recounts their experience with Islam. I think that's a very brave move, especially for a woman to do that. Even in Brazil or USA, I saw several people with this kind of experience. That's not very easy when you have to live. That's one of the reasons I decided to invite her, because I do admire the courage to speak up. I cannot say that I understand fully the risk to do that, but I can at least respect and give the space for us to talk about Islam. I'm not an expert in Islam. I do not know very much about Islam. Anyway, I'm going to bring our guest to the studio. So hi, Nushuz. How are you doing today?
Hi, I'm doing very well. How are you?
I'm just fine. Very happy to have you here because that's the first live that we are going to do in this podcast. So you are like the first guest.
I'm actually very excited because I have been on other lives before, but never with someone with the same kind of background. So I'm very excited to be here.
So tell us a little bit about this other life that you have been. I mean, you said that it's not someone like in the same background, but what do you mean? Do you mean let's say
Like a
Christian? Let's say.
scientific research kind of background is what I meant.
That's interesting. So maybe I have a couple of the slides, and I have used artificial intelligence. Basically, I have used 2 of your articles, of your stories. One is the one that you submit to our to our blog, Scientists Free from Religion. For those of you listening to the podcast, she's a writer on our blog, Scientists Free from Religion. Anyone can write. You just need to have an idea. And she has written so far about 4 stories so far. So I have selected one from our blog, and I have selected one as well from the Substack, in which she wrote about living Islam. Maybe you could start tell a little bit about you, about your research, and what motivated you to write, because I know that's not very easy to write when you leave Islam.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, so basically, I left Islam several years ago, and my journey did not start with rebellion, it did not start with anger. It started more with reason. I really wanted to be a better Muslim, and I started reading more, questioning more, and read like several hadith books, read several tafsirs of Quran. And the more I read, the more I realized that this is not, in my mind, the word of God. I cannot actually see, just like Islam claims that Quran was actually sent by God, because in my mind, a book at minimum, for example, would not have scientific errors if it was actually sent by the actual entity who created the universe. Um, it would not have historical errors. It would not have like supernatural beings that we don't have any evidence for, etc., etc. So a lot of it that I used to reconcile with, for example, the misogyny and the secondary status of women, all my life I reconciled with it, thinking that, okay, if this is how God wants the things to be, then this is how things are. But the more I realized that I don't believe that this is the word of God. One day I was actually reading Quran, and that's the moment that I realized that I know that the book that I'm reading is not the word of God. And once you realize that, there is just no turning back. There is no going back, because it is all about faith and all about belief. But for several years after that, I was silent, and I used to see things around me and talk to people and draw. I did a lot of research. I used to draw a lot of connections and conclusions and patterns and why are things the way they are. Especially with my training and background, I was able to do that. There came a point about 3 or 4 years back that I was like, I'm not going to stay silent anymore. And like you said, in Islam, the problem is that the moment you leave, it becomes a matter of life and death. Apostasy and blasphemy is a matter of life and death. Now, neither in my book nor in my blogs, I ever have any blasphemy. I never use any bad words. It is basically very educated critique. But I know from the example of, for example, right now there is a guy named Sharif Gaber, and Sharif Gaber was taken by a Muslim, um, essentially government, and they are literally, nobody knows where he is. He has never done any actual blasphemy, but this is how they punish people who in their mind question their ideology. They label them as blasphemers and apostates, and then they punish them. So it becomes a matter of safety. And but I'm glad, every time I speak up, every time I publish something, every time I write, every time I feel like I'm sharing the truth, I feel like being true to myself. And I strongly believe that's the right thing to do.
Hey there, thanks for being around. We are going to make a small break. I'm going to share with you my books. I have several books. So far, all my books about religion, atheism, which have been published a lot, they are in Portuguese, which is my main focus. But if you are interested, you can still buy my books to help me to support my work. I have several books. For example, One book that I'd like to recommend now is AI by Sci-Fi. AI by Sci-Fi is a book that talk about artificial intelligence, which is everyone is talking about artificial intelligence with ChatGPT, all this amazing stuff that they can do. They can talk, they can create video, they can create podcasts. This podcast, for example, there are several episodes that was recorded using artificial intelligence, which is amazing how I can do that. I can even interact as you could see in several episodes. So I would like to invite you to buy my book AI by Sci-Fi. It's available on Google Books, Google Play. It's also available on Amazon. So you can buy my book. If you are interested in something a little bit more complex, a little bit more technical, I do have as well technical book. For example, I have one book about computational thinking, in which I talk about Kasparov. It's a technical book. Greg Kasparov was the first guy to be beaten by a computer. He has a very nice book about that, how artificial intelligence overturned the difference between human and artificial intelligence. So please buy my book and offer me all the support. You can find all of them on Amazon. Hopefully in the future I'm going to write also about religion, atheism and science. But I do have a podcast, I do have a blog called the Scientists Free from Religion, the same name of the podcast, and you can find several already publications about several topics in which talk about science, religion and atheism. So hope you enjoyed the show. So let's come back to the show. Okay, you don't have to say anything as you agreed on the background before we start the live. You don't have to say anything that you don't want to say. Do you consider yourself an atheist? Do you consider yourself agnostic? Do you consider yourself someone that left the religion but still do you still still believe? How do you consider yourself in this, let's say, in this scale?
I consider myself an agnostic theist. And the reason is because I just don't know. I don't know. I think that universe is so organized that it seems to be more than an accident to me, but I don't know for sure. The way I think about it, if you think about the entire earth, in the big picture of the universe, we are smaller than a single red blood cell in the human body. And if I think about the individual humans who are sitting on earth, it's like, there is a group of earthworms in my front yard in the soil somewhere. How much do those earthworms know who is running the house? Where is the electricity bill getting paid? What is actually happening? They just don't, and they are not important enough in the big scheme of things for me to go out and tell the earthworms in the soil, hey, do you know I am running this house, that you are living in the soil, etc., etc. So in the big scheme of things, we are like microorganisms, and I feel like we just don't know. I just don't know, one way or the other. So I identify as an agnostic.
Okay, so basically, you are like lean towards what they call intelligent design. That you believe there is a mind behind the universe, or you just is agnostic about it.
I believe that I don't know if it is a single mind, if it is multiple minds. I don't know if it is truly an accident, but I believe that there is probably some kind of intelligent design behind the universe. Now, where is that coming from? I don't know. I think that the rules of physics, the rules of biology, are very sophisticated. And to me, it is like when I look at a car, if you say, oh, this car just came into being because two particles banged into each other, it might have, I don't know. But to me, my logical mind thinks that if there is a car, then there has to be a manufacturer. The manufacturer has a manufacturer. So The important thing over there is that a lot of times people who believe in religion, they have this thing of, oh, if there is a clock, there is a clockmaker. Okay, but from that logic, then where did the clockmaker come from? The clockmaker has to have a clockmaker, clockmaker maker. So, and they say, oh, no, no, no. The clockmaker came out of nowhere, but then the clock came out of somewhere. And that logic does not make sense to me. It's like, either things can actually happen without a maker, and that's how God, quote unquote, came into being, or they will not happen without a maker.
Uh, just a moment. Go on. I'll just come back. 1 minute. Go on,
Yeah,
please.
no problem at all. So, hi everybody. If you have any questions, please type them in the chat. We will try to answer them. I will take this time to tell you a little bit about my book. I am originally from Pakistan, and my book is a lot of true stories and observations that I had during the time. It has my own personal story as well. Um, and then what I've done in the conclusions or introductions of each chapter, I have drawn statistics and patterns and themes out of why I think certain things are the way they are, why I think there are certain laws, why I think people are still questioning, because a lot of times we hear that, oh, it is Muslims and it is not Islam. But if you look at the big picture, if you look at the actual patterns that are happening all around us, they tell us a different story. And that is the story that I've tried to tell in my book. So check it out. It's called Born a Burden. It is actually on Kindle Unlimited. So it is not going to cost you anything if you have Kindle Unlimited to check it out. And I would really appreciate it. Hey, you're back.
So can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yes, it was a false alarm. As I told, I'm waiting for a package, but I don't know what happened. It was false alarm. Anyway, so you were talking about your book. So that's a good point. So please go on.
Yeah, no, I'm done talking about it. I was just telling a little bit more about the structure and how I've, so, each chapter of my book, I've tried to take it from what happens in our childhood and what are the patterns and what are the kind of lived experiences that come out of it, all the way until our adulthood and what we see globally. And so the book is not about individual stories. The book is more about drawing patterns and statistics and connecting them to evidence.
So basically, give me an overview of your book, because I didn't have the opportunity to read your book. But you said that it's not about the God delusion. It's not like rich dog, and it's not something that goes against no blasphemy, as you call. But what precisely? It's about how you live Islam.
It is not just about how you leave Islam. For example, I'll talk about the first chapter, right? The first chapter is called The Unwelcome. And The Unwelcome is about um, a global problem that we see, but the problem still exists in Islam. It is about not wanting girl children, and what do girl children go through when they're born in Islam. And it draws on certain personal stories, but then it talks about the global numbers. Now, one thing about Islam, for example, in that instance, Muslims always say, oh, Islam gave women so much honor and it gave women so much importance, and this is not happening because of Islam. But if you look at the actual tenets, then there are things like women don't have any financial dependence. They are depending on male members of society for their sustenance. So obviously, they cannot provide any kind of support to their parents in old age. Then, when you look at, they have half inheritance, they have half testimony. Divorce is so much tougher than for them compared to for men. Um, and when you combine all that, it's like, okay, you are living in a religion, being born in a religion where you are claiming that you have honored women, but you have actually given them a secondary status. And that secondary status is showing you that in many ways your numbers are actually worse than the global numbers. And this is how the math is playing out. So that is just to talk about the first chapter. Then the second chapter is more about seeds of doubt. So what happens? I interviewed several people and I was like, okay, what happened to you? Like, what was that first moment that a doubt cracked in your mind that you questioned? And you probably have that moment in your life as well, that there is one moment where you say, okay, something is not right, something does not add up, something is not making sense. And what was that first moment? Now, for some people, that moment is a grave inequality or injustice that happened to them. For other people, it is literally like a question that is unanswered, or something that does not make sense. They are like, what is this supernatural being that you're asking me to believe in? What is this miracle that you're talking about? How is a person surviving in a fish's stomach with all the stomach acid without oxygen? How's a donkey flying out into the outer space and carrying a human on it? Um, so those are the kind of things that I talked about in the second chapter, and then so on and so forth. I have tried to bring the book to an end where it gives some kind of closure. There is no way to really close it and tie it with a bow, this kind of a book, but I have tried to focus more on how people are resisting, where they are today, especially some of the anchor characters that I included their stories in several chapters, and what is happening in their marriage, and what is happening in their motherhood, and what is happening in their adulthood, etc. And it has stories both from men and women. Um, but that's how I've tried to bring it to a close.
So chapter one, chapter two. So basically, the book it talks about your experience. For example, talk about in the first chapter about women that they have this idea that they have Islam give them better rights, and then you say that no, that's not so okay. That's not so true. In the second, you go up talk about doubts and the how when the doubt starts in your mind.
Yeah, when the doubt starts in your mind, and then I go so on and so forth. About the third one is about our, so it is called it is focusing more on the daily experience of life as a Muslim. So the daily inequities and injustices and problems that we observe. The fourth one is about the deep wounds, so things that don't happen daily, but there are extreme cases, like the murders that happen, the mob lynchings that happen, the femicide that happens, like those kind of things, that they are not. The third chapter is more about, okay, on a daily basis, a common person, what do they experience? And the fourth one is about, in extreme cases, we see it play out like that, so on and so forth. It goes into motherhood, different aspects of motherhood. It goes into marriage, polygyny, cousin marriage, and some of those things that, interestingly, Islam in those tenets is not very different from other Abrahamic faiths. So when you look at the core faith, it shares a lot of faiths with Judaism. It shares a lot with Christianity, but really, Islam is the one that is still following those tenets very closely compared to everybody else. So, like you were talking about Brazil, and you were saying that Brazil is more secular. There are a lot of like secular countries that are Christian majority, or but if you look at the actual constitution, it is not going to say kill somebody for being an apostate. The actual constitution is not going to say a woman has to go through court and a man can divorce verbally. But in Muslim majority countries, those laws are still there. They're still followed. For example, in extreme cases, in extreme examples, look at Afghanistan and Iran. They even police women for what they can and cannot wear.
Yes. Yes, I heard about some story. I had a friend from Iran, Setari. It's her first name, so I'm not disclose anything because just her first name is a genetic name.
Mhm.
But she used to tell me about the bizarre stuff that happens in Iran. They even have a kind of, if I remember well, a kind of moral police in which a police that is just responsible for checking the morality and so on.
Yeah, absolutely. And they have actually killed women for not wearing hijab. So when we look at Europe, and Europe is coming up with these laws, so many places where they are like, okay, women cannot wear a burqa, which is like
Like in
actually
Portugal.
covering. Yeah. The thing is that I say that women in Lisbon should not be able to wear a burqa if a woman in Afghanistan cannot take it off. Like, you are basically donning a symbol of oppression. And I don't know, I mean, the very beginning of that hijab in Quran, it's like, so you don't get harassed. To me, that's like the victim blaming of highest level. Like, why are you blaming a woman's clothes for
Yes,
harassment?
I totally agree with you because when I saw on Twitter one guy from Portugal, which he seems very important politician, I thought, but why don't you do the same with Christianity? It's clearly they are going to Islam because it's the enemy religion. So
Yeah. I mean, and there is
uh,
definitely, I always say that there is a
they
critique
are
of ideology.
attacking the
Hey,
person that's the victim.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. So those are the kind of things that I talk about, and
So I think
can you hear me?
yes, I think you just have the answer. I don't know if it's mine or yours, but there is a internet break sometimes.
Oh, I don't know. Might
Yes,
be my.
maybe it's me. It's okay. But let's go on. Maybe it's me. As you were saying, please go on.
No, I was just talking about the hijab in itself, and some of the rules around it. Like all these modesty rules, they are basically okay. You have to be modest because so that men can behave around you. And the problem is that the entire book, like the only thing that they tell men is kind of like, okay, lower your gaze. And it's like, let me ask you, in extreme heat of Arabia, is lowering your gaze equally uncomfortable as hiding in a tent?
Yes. You are asking me a question.
Yeah, I'm just asking, like it's a rhetorical question, really, because it is not. I mean, lowering your gaze, which men never do, because if they did do it, then they would not feel the need to harass a woman regardless of what she's wearing or not wearing. But unfortunately, it happens all the time.
Yes, I mean, sometimes I want to compare with Christianity, but I'm not saying that Christianity is a saint. I don't think so. I think what happened with Christianity is that as a country became secular, like in Brazil, USA, Christian they had to fit, otherwise they would not survive.
Yeah.
But anyway, Christianity have this crazy stuff as well. For example, in the book of José Saramago, he's from Portugal. He got the Nobel Prize of Literature. His book called the Gospel According to Jesus Christ. The Gospel According to Jesus Christ is how Jesus Christ would have talked if it had talked, if he had said anything. Jesus Christ never said anything. Everything that you know about Jesus Christ, somebody else wrote for him.
Yeah.
But José Saramago said, what about if you could ask Jesus what he wanted to say? But there is a scene in which Maria, Mary, the mother of Jesus Christ, she's in a situation in which she's pregnant. They don't know why she's pregnant. So they say, you could not have betrayed your husband because you didn't have time. Clearly, it's a mention to the Bible. The Bible says that the women has to be tested, but the man has never to be tested. The man has to be trusted. So as you can see, the Bible has similar pattern of the Islam. As you, I don't know if you got it,
Yeah,
if you follow me.
absolutely. No, I have studied, I don't speak about Christianity and Judaism because I always say it's not my place to speak about them.
No, the same for me or Islam. That's the reason why I invite you, because everything I know about Islam is what people say, what people talk. I'm not an expert in Islam.
Yeah.
The Christian, they like to say, why don't you make joke about Islam? I say, I don't have to pick a fight with Islam. It's not bothering me, at least not me. I mean, Christianity, I have to deal with in my country. I mean, Christian, in general, they're not very nice people to deal with. They are moralists. They want to pass law to change the life of women. For example, the abortion. In Brazil, the abortion is a very big problem because they want to make the law even backward. They don't want to go forward. They want to go backward.
Yeah, and there is even happening, like literally at this time anywhere in the world you see that kind of backward thinking is happening. But if you think about it, I always say, people always ask me like, why don't you talk about Christianity? And
They do the same. They do the same with Islam. Why don't you talk about Islam?
yeah, and I'm like, okay, why should I? That's not the religion that I was born in, I was raised in, that I left. I'm going to speak about the religion that I was raised in and I chose to leave. So I speak about the reasons why I left it and the reasons why I critique it. I It's not my place to talk about anybody else, and why should I? The other thing that bothers me about that is that e- even when you show that you're a person with independent thinking, people want to use you for their reasons. Like, they're like, okay, yeah, you can speak about someone, but why don't you forward my agenda instead of talking about what's on your mind? So I'm like, I'm not your tool. I'm not here to forward your agenda. I'm going to talk about what I want to talk about. Even like, as a woman, a lot, I will use, there is a woman named Malala. I don't know if you have heard about her. I will use her as an example.
Maybe is there Ali? Ali?
No, Malala is actually Malala Yousafzai. She was a girl from Pakistan who was shot by Taliban because she was advocating for women's education. And
No, I mean yes, yeah. I maybe have heard about that. Maybe I'm not very sure.
yeah, so after getting shot in the head, she moved to UK, and she went to school there.
Yes, I think Sam Harris talks a lot about her. Sam Harris.
Yeah. So yeah, so the thing is that she still always like talks about women's education and against Taliban. And Muslims, their gut reaction is immediately they would be like, they hate her so much. And they are like, oh, she's just a quote unquote Jewish agent. Because everybody who is speaking up against Islam is like Jewish agent. And she does not even speak against Islam. She's not an apostate. She's not a blasphemer. She really says women need to be educated. And that's all she says. And people are like, oh, yeah, she's talking against Taliban because she's against Islam and she's a Jewish agent. And why is she not talking about women in Gaza? Or why is she not talking about um, child marriage in Jews? And I'm like, why should she talk about what you want her to talk about? She's going
Because
to talk about.
it's a fallacy. It's a fallacy in which they try to Christian love to do that. Whenever you talk about with them, they say, why don't you say this? Why don't you say that? It's a kind of it's a trick. That
Yeah.
instead of engaging with the conversation, they try to make you talk about somebody else.
Yeah, talk about somebody else. Or I always say that if you get in a discussion with a pig, and you are gonna play with them in the mud, the pig is going to enjoy that and you are just going to get dirty. So
Yeah,
it's
because for example, in the case of Islam, people ask me, why don't talk about Islam? I don't have to talk about Islam. I mean, in Brazil, they basically does not exist. I mean, in Brazil, all the issue that you have is about Christianity, because
and
Christianity they want to change the law. They want they want an evangelical country. I mean, I'm atheist. I don't want an evangelical country. I want a country that is secular. So I will criticize them.
Yeah, and you should, and that is your place to do, because that is what you have seen around you, and you know it in and out to be able to critique it. My thing is, I know about Christianity. I have read the Bible. I know, like, broadly about similarities between Christianity and Islam, and differences as well. But I absolutely don't know it as well as I know Islam, and I never will, because Islam, for decades in my life, I was living it, I was learning it, I was reading it every single day. There is just no way that I'm ever going to know about Christianity to that point.
Yes, yes. Yeah, that's interesting point. Maybe we could maybe I don't know, maybe it's a topic that you should maybe mention because you correct me by mail, which I didn't know about that. That was interesting. I asked AI to help me, but I would like as well for you to talk about it. I said in the live that was living Islamism, and you
Islam.
told me like, and you told me no, it's live Islam. Then
Yeah.
I was talking to AI to understand the difference because in Christianity you don't have like live. You just say I left Christianity. That's all. You don't say like I left Christianism. You don't
Yeah.
say it. So when you say I left Christianity, it's understood that you left a religion. But you told me that when you say live in Islamism, it's not the
No,
same
not
as live
Islam.
in Islam.
No, leaving Islam is the right term. So, I'm sorry if I confused you, but leaving
No, no.
Islamism, because Islam is just a proper noun, just like Christianity. So it's like leaving Islam. And actually,
So
that's
let me check. So let me check. Let me check if the AI is correct. The AI told me that I asked the AI why you asked me to correct the title of the live. Then the AI told me that Islamism is a name of ideology. It's a political ideology. Islam is the religion. So they have separated. They separate the ideology from the religion. Why,
so
why the difference?
there are like several, yeah, sure, that is a point of view, but talking about myself, what I left was the actual religion and not the political ideology. So it's not just that I separated from the political ideology of Islam, it's like I actually left the religion. And that's why I think that I said that, okay, leaving Islam, like I left Islam and not just Islamism.
I see because as I'm from a different place, so I didn't understand the difference because, for example, both in Brazil and USA, you have the far right like Donald Trump, Bolsonaro.
Yeah,
They are like Christian. They don't like to say it, but they are Christian. They are Christian nationalism.
yeah.
So basically, so when you talk about the far right, you are talking about Christianity. You don't have to
Mhm.
pretend. So, but you don't say like I left the far right. You say that I left Christianity,
Yeah.
or I left the ideology of Christianity. I want to understand if there is a difference between if the word that you trying to fix, they have a kind of practical application. For example, if I say I left Islamism and I left Islam, uh, would have any difference? Do they have any difference on
Honestly,
the?
I don't know. I always say I left Islam because I left the religion, and that's how I see it. I have not read about Islamism. I have not read about the difference between the two. So I'm not going to be making an informed comment if I comment on that.
Okay. Because I was curious because Christianity did a very good job to separate the two of them because it make very hard for you to attack because when they say, this is the far right, such
Yeah.
as Bolsonaro, Donald Trump, and this is the Christianity. So you cannot attack the far right, say that's Christianity, but it is Christianity. I have at least one book about it. So
And
if you study the far right, it's basically Christianity.
And
Eh,
Islam, we see that where, for example, people will say that they call them Islamic extremists. Like, they will say that ISIS or Taliban or Hamas, they are like Islamic extremists. and they will try to like separate, kind of what you are saying about the far right, that they will try to separate from that. But here is the truth: just like Christianity, the truth is that at the end of the day, that extreme Islamic entities are actually just following Islam. They're not doing anything different. So when people say, oh, I love the book, I love Quran, and I'm not violent, I always joke with them. I'm like, okay, you are interested in theory and not in practice, because all those people are doing is actually practicing the theory, and there is no other difference.
So they have the same trick Islam as well, because in Christianity they have tricks called the no Scott May fallacy. The no Scott May fallacy is basically whenever someone do something wrong with Christianity, they're not true Christian. They are not true Christian. They do not understand the word of Jesus.
Oh,
Jesus, the
absolutely,
same trick.
absolutely. In Islam, they are like, oh, yeah, these people are not really Muslims. They don't really understand Islam, and they will cherry pick until like there is just no end to the cherry picking. It is so funny when they are like, okay, all these violent things in Quran have a context, and then they would say, for example, no compulsion in religion. Well, no compulsion in religion also has a context. So either everything is context bound and the book is outdated, or nothing is context bound and the entire book is relevant. It's like you don't get to choose and pick and say these parts of the book are relevant and these parts of the book are not relevant anymore, because it is either one or the other.
Okay, so let's enjoy the opportunity that you are here. Let me show you let me see how can I share here. Yes, this one. Okay, let me see if you can see. Can you see
Yes,
the screen?
yes, I can.
This is the part of your book. I have sorry, part of your essay that you wrote.
Mhm.
Then you talk about can you basically we're talking about how you talk about the mother that she was killed with her baby. You talk about how women were trapped not to talk. One thing that you said was very interesting to me is basically how opinion became crime on your story, because you say you talk about that in the past you could disagree, you could have different opinion, and suddenly someone starts to kill people because they have different opinion. You talk about the women. I think that they did a poem about all the crime, all the violence, and she was killed. Then they create the idea of I think it was Muhammad that I don't remember well, but they said like, if I can do it, who will do it for me? So they start to kill in name of the prophet.
Right.
So maybe
And,
could
and then there are all these apologetic responses of, oh, these were wartime orders and they cannot be applied to regular life. Well, the reality is that 13 countries in the world have laws against apostasy and blasphemy. And they kill people for apostasy and blasphemy, and that's where it comes from. All schools of thought, all four Sunni schools of thought in Islam agree that apostasy should be punished by death. So, thinking about, when you look at the history, there were several deaths, like you said, that basically came about because somebody said something that did not sit well. Now, the people, the apologetics would be like, oh yeah, whatever was said was a murder plot or whatever. Even if it was a murder plot, or it was a poem, or it was something that annoyed the prophet or whatever, um, speaking was not a crime that should be punished like that. Now, one of the things that I actually included in my apostasy article, um, it is the event of, and I think that event is the most clear one, that there was a slave woman who was carrying a child, the third child of her owner, and he basically put a dagger in her stomach and basically killed her. And when it came forward, he said that, oh, because she was saying things against the prophet and she wouldn't stop. And the prophet was like, okay, yeah, sure, then killing her is fine. And there is no consequence of killing her. And he
And
was
what you even said think about her life has no. He even said think like her life has no value at all.
yeah, her life is no value at all. It's totally fine. And then also he said her life is no value at all about the woman who was the poetess, who they actually took her breastfeeding child off of her body to kill her. And then when the person who killed her came to him and he was like, oh, I killed this woman and there might be consequences, he was like, her life has no value. Like, two goats are not going to butt their head on her death, so it does not really matter. And then when you think about the first apostate in Islam was actually a scribe of the Quran. And when he realized that this is not the word of God and he left Islam, there were orders to kill him. And when his brother, who was later a caliph of Islam, he brought the person to the prophet and he asked for forgiveness, the prophet was long, like he was silent for such a long time that people got uncomfortable. And finally, he granted the pardon. And later on, he said to people that I was hoping that while I'm silent, somebody would get up and kill him. But you all did not do that. Like, it was like, ha, you missed an opportunity. You should have killed the guy.
I think that was, as I said, Islam is not a religion that I know very well, but as I was reading, I was listening to your story on the using artificial intelligence. If people are interested, I have produced a very nice, a very fine episode using artificial intelligence in which I have used two of her stories. One is available on the blog Scientific from Religion, and the other one is available on a Substack. And I was very, like say, I could not stop to compare with Christianity, because Christianity now is a little bit calm, it's not killing people anymore, but that was in the past they used to do the same.
So one thing that I always say, I say that Islam, at the end of the day, what needs to happen is that there needs to be evolution, just like there is in Christian countries, that there is a separation between religion and law.
Yes, but I think it's important that you highlight it's not a Christian, because people like to say Christianity evolved. No, Christianity
Yeah.
didn't evolve. What evolved was the country, was the
Yeah.
secularism,
The
was the
law.
because Christians love to say that they evolved, they are better than Islam, they are better. No, no. The Bible is the same, the book is the same, the idea is the same. What happens is that they can't do it, they can't kill, they can't kill people anymore. They can't like pass laws in the name of God. That's the difference. Christianity is the same old religion, the same. The Catholic Church evolved. I should grant them a kind of they evolved the Catholic Church, but still, if you allow them to do whatever they want, you are
Yeah.
going to come back
Yeah.
to the Middle Age.
Yeah. And I always say that what needs to happen is that it's not like, there are people who call themselves quote unquote progressive Muslims, and all they do is like PR management for Islam. They are the ones who go around saying, oh, no, 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 this is not real Islam, these people are not real Muslims, they don't really understand what they're talking about, when they are themselves the people who are depending on cherry picking and fringe interpretations and things like that. So what needs to happen is not um, like management of Islam's reputation, but actual separation between the laws of the countries and religion. And the problem is that Islam is so resistant to it because they have built in all these things that you cannot invent new things in the religion. And religion is kind of like it gives you several laws that you have to operate under, etc. So people are very, very resistant. And then honestly, the poverty and the lack of education just compounds the problem. It does not make it any easier.
Yes, I know that's a very difficult question. That's a very tricky question. I don't know that you. I think no one has the answer for that. But how could I say? I don't know if you, maybe you know some Harris. They call the four horsemen of the atheism, and he talked about Islam. He talks a lot about, but he, I don't know, uh, uh, because we have an issue. Let's say Islam is a very religion that you wanna don't do, does not seem to want to evolve. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
the religion that they want to stay like in the past. But at the same time, it's become very dangerous because most of the Islamic countries they have the atomic bomb. So
Yeah.
imagine a confrontation between a Christian country like USA versus a Islamic country. That would be catastrophic. Like, I don't think that would be a very good idea. But at the same time, the Islamic world does not seem to want to evolve because the human right, the women rights, women right to education, as you said yourself, does not. They do not want to. I don't know. I do not know. I do not know in detail all the Islamic world. So I don't know if there is a country that Islamic, and they are very evolved in the sense of they have women education. I don't know. I just know the stereotype, which is some the women that are closed, as some have like to say, closed in bags, like black bags, like
Yeah.
they are
So,
closed. They do not have rights.
yeah, I'll tell you that there are some countries where they have higher like women education rates
I
and
think
better
Turkey. I think
yeah,
Turkey Islamic.
Turkey, for example, Turkey or Tunisia, or there are some countries that are like that. But the reason for the evolution of those countries is the same reason for the evolution of Europe or for the evolution of any other part of the world. It is the separation between how the law and the actions happen versus the religion.
The
Um,
state, church
yeah,
and state.
state and the church is different, and it is separated in those countries, and that is how situations are better. Versus there are countries like Iran and Afghanistan and Pakistan and Bangladesh and Saudi Arab and UAE, and for example, UAE and Saudi Arab have a lot of money. They don't even have poverty as a problem, but when you look at women rights, there is still like unfortunately down in the gutter. So oh wow, we allowed quote unquote women to drive in 2018, and that is such a huge win for Saudi Arab. It's like fantastic. What a, like, should I stand up and applause?
So sorry, you are asking me a question.
No, I'm not asking you a question, I'm just being
Because
sarcastic.
yes, I think it was. Anyway, maybe we could let's see what point we could get here now. From your, maybe you could move a little bit for. You talk about this assassination. They start to then you talk about the morality. So it seems that you hold the view that morality is evolved.
So I hold a view that morality is a product of the knowledge of the time that you live in and what is the right thing to do, what is considered the right thing to do. Morality is obviously very complex. But for example, where that is coming from is that I wrote that article because a lot of times people ask, and even my mother, when I left the religion, first question that she asked me was that, what
But
is wrong?
I don't remember. She left also, or just you?
No, no, no. She is a very hardcore Muslim. She has not left. But she was like, oh, where do you find your morality? Like, if you're not a Muslim, what is stopping you from becoming a master?
The
And what
same, the same trick in Christianity. They say the same stuff.
Yeah, and what is stopping you from becoming a monster is actually your own moral compass and your knowledge and your desire to not hurt other people. So I will give you an example of when all these religions say we are so moral, they stand behind slavery, they stand behind child marriage, they stand behind wife beating. And in the current time and knowledge that we have, we know that those things are actually very hazardous. They're hazardous to the mental well being, the physical well being of people. People get killed. It is not very moral. But at that time, for example, Islam back in 7th century, all of that was considered moral. So a lot of times, the Islamic prophet, it is widely debated that he married like teenage girls when he was in 50s.
Yes, this story is very famous on the atheist group. Atheists, they
Yeah,
love to share this story.
yeah. So the thing is that, yeah, and the apologetic Muslims will be like, he did not do anything wrong as per the rules of 7th century, and I say that's true. That's true.
So you have as well apologetic Muslim. The
Yeah.
apologetic, they try to justify, they trying to find reasons. The same trick of Christianity, I believe.
Yeah, Christianity absolutely does the same thing. And Muslims are like, oh, this was okay in 7th century.
There's a different time. It didn't mean that. Yeah, it's not. You are interpreting it in the wrong way.
You
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 are
are you are, you are
this
taken out of context.
this does not mean 9, it means 18. And like like a 18-year-old marrying a 53-year-old polygynous man is okay in today's world. But at that time, all of that was considered moral by the moral compass of that time. Now, if we think about it, morality since then has evolved significantly. So, now we don't say that, okay, any women that you capture during wars, you can go and rape.
Yeah.
Any, like,
Just to remember our listener, the Bible says the same. It's on, I think it's Numbers. The
yeah,
Bible says the same.
yeah. I mean, I absolutely know that and don't question that, but like I said, it's your place to speak and not mine because I did not read Christianity, right? But you did. But
No. I never left Christianity. I have never. I always has been. I had a very short period of time in Christianity, but I was never Christian. Maybe I was. I don't know what I was, but about 3 years ago, I decided to accept myself as atheist. But I have never been a Christian. I have been a very short, maybe 6 months, maybe,
okay,
but it was very short.
that's
The reason why I know so much about Christianity is because I start to understand that Christianity is an enemy of knowledge. If you want people to learn, if you want people to do science, Christianity is the worst thing for example, in Brazil, for you to have an idea. There is a big fight in the politics that Christian, they wanted to teach the Bible in the school, the public school. You say, no, you can use the Bible in the public school. The public is free for people to learn, not to read the Bible. That they want to put the Bible, they want to teach people how to be Christian. That's the fight. The fight here is to avoid Christian to use the public space. I guess a little bit different from your fight.
yeah. And it's like, I can tell you that from studying all the religions, the little bit that I know that there are overwhelming similarities between Islam and
But
Christianity.
when you talk about religion, let's be clear. Sam Harris, he says a lot about that. When you talk about religion, you mean the Abrahamic religion. We mean
Abrahamic
Buddhism. We
religion.
mean
Yes.
yes.
I
Let's be
used to
clear.
talk about Abrahamic religions. I do think that at the core of it, for example, even Hinduism has a lot of
For
misogynistic.
example, this sense here, every religion does that. It's called apologetic. Not necessary. Buddhism does not have apologetic. Apologetic is typical from Abrahamic religion. I don't know about Hinduism. I don't know if Hinduism they do the same. But I know that the Abrahamic religion, especially Christianity, you told me that as well, that Muslim, they have the same issue. Because in the case of Buddhism, for example, I love Buddhism. I study Buddhism a lot. They don't have to do it because Buddhism is not the denial of reality. The problem of Christianity, I think the Muslim is the same. They deny the reality. They say that the reality should be ignored, should be interpreted as I want. Buddhism is the opposite. Buddhism, you should learn from your experience. I'm not saying that Buddhism is perfect. I'm saying that Buddhism does not have the same issue as Christianity has. Peter Rosso, for example, he didn't
And I
criticize.
might be wrong, but one thing about Buddhism is, for example, that they don't claim that their rules came from God. Like, they're
Precisely.
not like,
They don't have God at all, but they don't have God at all. It's
yeah.
a no God religion.
Yeah, and to me it's like, okay, help each other. Human beings help each other. If you are like earthworms or microorganisms living in the soil, then you have to help each other. It's like, instead of asking this, in Islam we have this thing of, oh, there is this entity who is going to give you food. Well, if he is gonna give you food, then how are so many people dying of hunger every single day? So there are all these like claims that does not make any sense. But to your point, when I'm saying religion, I'm mostly talking about Abrahamic religions.
It's important to highlight because people, especially Christian love to Christianity, they love to use religion because when they say the religion, they say that, even atheists, they say atheist is a form of religion because they want to make everyone the same, so it becomes easier for them to defend. But they should be very clear. Abrahamic religion, they are different from the no God religion, the no theist religion, such as I don't know about Hinduism. Hinduism, they
So
have several
Hinduism
gods.
does have God, and well, they do have several gods, but ultimately they believe in like one God and then several like gods that come from that one God. I don't know a whole lot about it, but what I do know is that
But
they
I know that I read somewhere that they have probably more if Christian they have if Muslim. They pass several laws to avoid Christian to convert Hinduism, but they do not have the same hostility toward Muslim. I don't know why they are more friendly with Muslim and they don't like Christian. I read somewhere about that.
so but Hindus, for example, can actually marry Christians. They cannot marry Muslims.
I
I
saw a law. I saw a law that they avoid precisely that. I saw a law that in which they are trying to avoid because they say that the Christian are using a kind of a trick to make people to convert by marriage. So they create a law to avoid this kind of trick.
Well, they have the same kind of thing for Muslims as well. They call it love jihad, and they are like, oh, Muslims are trying to convert Hindus into Islam by marriage, which actually does happen, especially in places like Pakistan. It unfortunately happens quite a lot. But the thing is that at the end of the day, I think that most religions, and especially Abrahamic religions, they have this cult mentality. They're like, my cult is somehow better than your cult.
Now, so
And
let's separate again. Buddhism, as far as I know, Buddhism, as
yeah,
far as I know, does not have this mind.
and that's what I'm saying. The Abrahamic religions, they have this cult mentality, and they're like, okay, yeah, my cult is actually better than your cult, which at the end
Just
of
one
the day
minute.
is similar.
Just 1 minute. I'll come back.
No problem.
Just go on, please.
No problem.
Uh, I think it was. Let me turn off here. So go on, please. What were you saying?
No, I was just saying that at the end of the day, Abrahamic religions have this cult mentality that they're like, okay, my cult is somehow better than your cult. When at the end of the day, they defend the same thing, they say the same thing, they do the same thing. So I don't know how one is better than the other.
Okay, because I like to highlight that because as I always write on my blog post, some heroes talk a lot about that you should make sure to separate what he mean like God-like religion, like faith-based religion versus religion that does not have this kind of God in the center. It makes the difference because when you have a God, you have someone telling a kind of rule, a sacred book. If I remember well, the only religion that have a sacred book are the Abrahamic religion. They have a sacred book sent by God with rules and so on.
Yeah, exactly. And they are like, okay, whatever is in the book is the word of God. So Islam, for example, will be like, we cannot change it, we cannot deviate from it. So the problem that that creates is, for example, if I go today and I say slavery is bad and we should not have slavery, but God endorsed slavery in his book. He was like, you can enslave the people who you capture in wars, and you can actually have sex with them.
Can
So
it be then?
what is that?
You can beat them.
Yeah, you can beat them. You can, like, they're essentially your slaves. So in Quran, they mostly talk about, like, those slave women that you have captured in war, and your right hand now possesses them. And that's not okay. But a good Muslim cannot criticize that without doing blasphemy, because now you're criticizing a principle in Quran. Like, how can you question something that God okayed?
But Christian, they used to do the same stuff. I had experience myself personally, and I have heard that the podcast, atheist experience. The atheist experience, they do a lot that they ask people, are you against slave? The person say yes. Do you know that the Bible has all this slave? And the guy tried to change his mind.
Yeah.
I had a friend of mine. I asked him, "Do you have anything against LGBT plus people?" "Hell no, I don't have. We have friends in common." I thought, "Do you know the Bible say that okay that it's a sin. It's against nature." Then the guy tried to change his mind. He tried to say, I'm somehow, I don't have anything against it. But if the Bible says that it's
Yeah.
against God, so I should follow that. They basically change their mind in front of you. They have
Yeah,
one mind and say the Bible says.
they have these ridiculous lines both in Christianity and in Islam. They will say, "Oh, hate the sin, not the sinner." I'm like, what does that even mean? And then they're like, okay, it's not like your sexuality that God is going to punish, but acting on your sexuality. And I'm like, what does that mean? Like, acting on your sexuality. Then why did God make your sexuality?
They,
What they made.
yes, Christian, they love to play for such as they say like once I was talking to a pastor, a friend of mine, he very close, and he was telling me I don't have anything against LGBT plus. I told him, he told me, but I respect their style of life. I respect their style of life. So they basically compare to be LGBT plus to be a gothic. You decide to dress like gothic, then you decide to stop, then you decide to dress a clothes, then you stop. They compare LGBT plus, like your gender, to kind of a clothing that you are
Yeah.
dressing, like your style.
Yeah,
It's like it's.
like I always say about this, sexuality is not a lifestyle choice, and unfortunately so many Muslims like think that it is just a choice that somebody can switch on or switch off, and they can just choose to be a certain sexuality or not. I will tell you in all honesty, if you could choose a sexuality, I would be homosexual, but I am not. So that in itself is proof that it's not a choice.
Yeah, if I could choose myself as well, I would be neutral. I would not care at all. I would be just like I would just be a
You'd be
neutral person.
pansexual,
I would what?
pansexual, like the people who are basically completely neutral to whatever gender, whatever.
No, no, I would be neutral in the sense that I would not care. I would not care as I don't care about for example, I don't know, I don't care about the a vegetarian. If someone does not eat meat, that's not my business. I would not care about it.
And that's the I wrote another article. If you get time, please check it out. Basically, there is a logic when you think about, I wrote it about Islam, but it is true for literally all Abrahamic religions. They want people to have as many children as possible, so that they can train the children while children are still young, their prefrontal cortex is not fully developed, and they are like, we will train their fear center, so that it is basically a factory for little followers. And the problem is that in the quest of making those children, they demonize homosexuality. They take the consent out. Like, if you think about these books, they don't even mention a woman's consent. um, they basically do all these things that only serve one purpose. So for example, in Islam, they will say you can go and marry multiple women, you can go and have sex with your slaves, you can like, they incentivize making as many children as possible. Same thing with Judaism. They are like, be as productive as you can be. Same thing with Christianity. So ultimately, that's like the goal of demonizing LGBTQ, because they don't see it as productive.
There is this discussion. I don't know if you follow this kind of. You told me that you do not follow very much Christianity because that's not your concern very much. You know a little bit what you told me, but there is a debate between Sam Harris and Jordan Peterson. I don't know if you follow. It was like about 4 hours, 4 parts. There is one part that Sam Harris and Jordan Peterson are talking about precisely about that. Jordan Peterson, which is a defender of Christianity, he does not say that he's a Christian, but he keeps defending Christianity. Then they're talking about how come you have this rule, like you have too much sun, all this rule of Christianity. So basically, they are at the conclusion that could be a third rule, a rule that was created. For example, as you said, what you said is more or less what I will publish, or maybe I have published somewhere about why Christian. You said Muslim is the same, but why Christian want you to have as many kids as they want? I mean, they want to avoid you to have birth control. They want to avoid you to use condom. So they want to have a huge amount of kids. The question is how that's so? I mean, why that's so important for them? In the past, that would make sense because you are a small tribe. You are trying to preserve your tribe. So if you have as much kids, as much children as you want, you have more soldier, you have more people to work. But things changed. Now today, the amount of people in the world is a problem. It's not the amount is a problem, not because you should have more kids. You should have less children because the world is like on this limit. So Jordan Peterson and Sam Harris was talking about that. Maybe that's a kind of third rule. So I think that today Christianity, I think it seems that Muslim is the same as well, with this kind of rule, like have as many children as you want, they are keeping the machine of war. Because the more children you have, the younger, the more soldiers you have, the more you have to compete for natural resource, because the natural resource, they are very limited. So the religion, I'm not alone here. Here I'm using Better Russell. Better Russell says more or less the same. Better Russell said that he was talking about Christianity. Why I'm not a Christian? His very famous book, Why I'm Not a Christian. Then he was talking about that Christianity, they prefer to have war than we have to have birth control. So that's more or less what you said.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I just feel like they manipulate children. Like the moment you even tell a little child that there is a hell and this is what's going to happen in hell, it's like you are inducing trauma. You are basically training their fear center, and you are doing it at a very vulnerable time before their brain is fully developed and it can even comprehend that this is not making sense. They don't
Yeah,
get judgment.
that could be very strong because I don't know. I published on my blog Scientists Free from Religion a kind of a comment on Alex O'Connor. Do you know Alex O'Connor?
Um,
I don't know Alex O'Connor. And
I do, but I will look it up.
yes, he was talking about how hard was to live Christianity and the idea of hell. He was talking about how painful was the idea of hell. He said that the idea of hell started to kick in, started to make effect after he left. When he was a Christian, he's from UK, United Kingdom. He said as he was in Christianity, he didn't feel anything. The hell started to make the effect when he left as an atheist. He was always afraid that he would be burned in hell. He said that it took years for him to get rid of the idea. I had the same experience. I was never Christian myself. I was never Christian. But even though I was afraid of hell, it took me a lot not to be afraid of hell. Even though I'm not a Christian, I was afraid just to hear people talking about it because they say that as you criticize Christianity, Jesus will punish you. God will punish you. I have a YouTube channel. as you see here YouTube channel, I like to make jokes about Jesus, about Christianity. People say, when you die, Jesus or God will punish you. Like they always use the same trick. They make you feel afraid that you'll be punished because you make a joke about Jesus Christ.
And when people tell me and they talk to me about hell, I'm like, okay, that's fine because most of the humanity, by your standards, is going to be in hell. So I'm
Yeah.
fine with being in hell. And the other thing is that all the cool people are going to be in hell.
Yes, the same logic. I like to play around. In hell, I'll be shy instead. I will have better roles, so I have José Saramago. So I'm totally happy in the hell. But
Yeah,
when I see heaven, I have Donald Trump, you have Bolsonaro. So sorry, I don't want to go to heaven. I
yeah,
want to go to hell.
in the Muslim heaven, there are all these like uber religious people who are going to be having like I don't know, all these like bots and all. It sounds like a very weird place, and I don't even want to be in there. So it's totally fine.
Yes, I think do you know this guy that's comment here? Do, do you know him?
I actually shared the link in a bunch of places. So I
I shared as well in a several group, atheist group, my
Mhm.
group. I make invitation on my blog. Maybe he could say for us where he found the link
Yeah.
because
But as said it, Abdul, I mean, Abdul is a Muslim name. So I can say that it is probably coming from that kind of connection because Abdul is basically a common.
but in my group as well, I have a lot of people from
Oh,
Islam.
okay. Yeah.
Yes, because my group is a hybrid group. You have Portuguese speakers, but you have as well English speakers. So sometimes I like to share another group, so people jump from group to another group. They come to my group. You have some people from Muslim Islam as well.
Absolutely. So, Georgia, it was really nice talking to you. I think that I will have to unfortunately jump off in a little
Yes,
bit because it's evening where I'm at, and it's almost dinner time for us. So
perfect.
I will have
So
to
it
run out.
yes, it was a pleasure. So I hope in the future we could find more opportunity to talk. There are some very interesting. You are always welcome to publish on the blog, and it was a big pleasure to know you better. And I invite everyone to read your. He's from Medium. He's from the blog.
Oh, so
He's from
okay.
the from the
This
blog
is
Medium.
actually, the person who is commenting is actually one of my collaborators.
Ah, yes, I remember him. He's the same that he's comment your blog. I
Yes,
saw him comment
yes.
your post.
Yes, absolutely. So him and I actually collaborate on quite a few things. So that's it's great.
Yes, he did a couple of submissions as well. So I totally recommend you guys to read his post. So thanks a lot, Nushuz. It was a pleasure to have you here. Hope in the future we could find new ways to collaborate. So it was
Absolutely.
nice have you here. And if you could, you don't have to turn off the to close the window. I would just close the live, and you can finish in private after I finish the live. So just do you have anything to say to close the live?
Um, I just want to say that I hope that all of us, retain our capacity to question and critically think. And as difficult as it is to leave Islam and actually be vocal about it and actually speak up about it, it is not impossible. And, do not, I hope that everybody is they are not going to turn their critical thinking switch off. That's really all I want to say. That critique of an ideology is not blasphemy. Critique of an ideology, questioning it, is not in itself act that should be punished. And that's what I advocate for. That's what I stand for.
Okay, I should leave it recorded as you close. You are very courage to speak up. I know how hard it could be, especially because you are a woman in a Islamic country. So I know how hard it could be. Even for a Christian, it's very hard. I had some guests to my Portuguese podcast. Some of them use nickname because they are afraid to lose their job. And not that to compare, you lose your job if you lose your life. But anyway, it could be hard as well, even for Christian. So thank you all for today. I hope we keep interact. So please, Nushuz, do not close the window. I'm going to say goodbye to you in private. Just
All
a
right.
minute.
Sounds good.
See
Thank
you
you.
all.
Bye.
Hey there. You arrived to the end of this episode. You can always check out my YouTube channel and also keep watching because there are 7 episodes. So you just if you enjoyed this one, hopefully you are going to enjoy the next one. I always like to remember that you can support my work by buying my books. Even though I still don't have a book about religion, which is the main topic of the podcast, I do have a book about artificial intelligence, and also I have a blog called Scientists Free from Religion on Medium, and there are several blog posts there, and you can enjoy it, you can read it, and you can subscribe to my YouTube channel, you can share it with your friends. So hopefully I can hear from you and hope you had an amazing time. So hope to see you in the next episode.